Welcome to First Mover, your first global look at today's action in the Bitcoin, blockchain, and digital asset space. I'm your host, Christine Lee. Joining me are my co-host, Coindesk Managing Editor of Global Capital Markets, Lawrence Lewitton, and Managing Director of International Content, Emily Parker. Good morning, you two.
Good morning.
Let's quickly
I feel like you should say the
have
Bitcoins.
a live look at Bitcoin. The Bitcoins. Oh, let's take a look at the Bitcoins. The Coindesk Bitcoin price XBX index is currently trading at $61,585. Bitcoin is slightly down about 0.7%. The Coindesk Ether price ETX index is at 4504, also stepping back about 0.8%. And the new DFX Coindesk DeFi index is taking a bit of a broader retreat at 1.7%. The most reliable reference prices for institutions since 2014 are now published under the Coindesk brand, trusted globally as a leader in crypto news, events, and data. So actually for our top story, let's check in with crypto Twitter, where there seems to be a little bit of competition brewing between which US city will become the hub for crypto. So incoming NYC Mayor Eric Adams tweeting to the Mayor of Miami, in New York, we always go big. So I'm going to take my first 3 paychecks in Bitcoin when I become mayor. NYC is going to be the center of the cryptocurrency industry and other fast-growing innovative industries. Just wait. So those are some fighting words. But New York hasn't always been known for being so crypto-friendly, right, Emily?
Yeah, so that's the irony here is that, you know, the mayor taking his paychecks in Bitcoin isn't going to change the fact that New York has some of the strictest rules for cryptocurrency exchanges known as the BIT license. So people in the cryptocurrency industry are just definitely pointing this out. I mean, I'm really curious to see what he means when he talks about New York becoming the quote unquote center of quote unquote Bitcoins, because there's not a lot of details there other than him taking his paycheck in Bitcoin. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, this is not New York City. New York City itself is the biggest city in a state that seems to be, if not openly hostile, at least very difficult, as Emily was saying. But the thing is, New York City. Besides that, I mean, you do have a bit of a brain drain, if you will, happening right now, and this has been going on since before the start of COVID, but it's been accelerated now that people can work from home, and that is there is no reason really to live in New York other than you want to go to MoMA. And I'm serious, like that's it. That's the only reason left in New York to live there is just to go to MoMA. Everything else, they're going elsewhere. They're not just going up to Hudson Valley. They're leaving the state where they don't have to pay onerous taxes. They're leaving the state where they don't have to deal with the reduction in the quality of life, services, et cetera. So if he wants New York to be the capital of Bitcoins, he's got to start with like trying to fix up the city itself.
Yeah, I still love New York. It's still the international capital of the world. But certainly, if this does go forward in terms of maybe a regime change with Eric Adams and a new attitude toward crypto, I welcome it. And hopefully we see a bit of change to the law to make it a little more crypto friendly here in New York. All week long, we've also been talking about...
Sorry.
All week long, we've been also talking about the Biden administration's report on stablecoins, which recommends federal agencies regulate issuers as banks. Stablecoins are, of course, the foundation of the crypto industry, allowing investors to trade in and out of positions. If the crypto industry were a casino, stablecoins would be the poker chips. Joining us now to discuss is Jeremy Elaire, CEO of Circle, the stablecoin issuer of USDC, the 10th largest cryptocurrency with a market cap of over $33 billion. Hello there, Jeremy. Good to have you on the show. So how does this report affect Circle and USDC?
Yeah, you know, there are a number of pieces in this. I mean, I think the first is essentially a lot of observations about what could happen if stablecoins became much, much larger and used for everyday payments in the economy, impacting the real economy and the financial system as a whole. So some of it is just sort of describing, you know, a world potentially in the coming years that the administration clearly sees is possible, if not likely, and wants to get out ahead of it. Hence, the very strong kind of urgent plea, in a sense, the urgency with which they've asked Congress to take this up and to work on new statutes, which really leads to, I think, the second piece, which gets to the heart of the question, which is what the Biden administration, and in particular, the heads of the Federal Reserve, the U.S. Treasury Department, the FDIC, have done is they've said stablecoin issuing and the overall arrangement of how stablecoin works on public blockchains with wallets, with exchanges, this whole kind of ecosystem that we all kind of take for granted here in crypto land, that they don't feel that they have the statutory authority to regulate stablecoin issuers, at least under banking law. And so what they're proposing is that Congress essentially develop statutes around issuers like Circle becoming Federal Reserve, banks overseen by the Federal Reserve, insured depository institutions that would give confidence to not just stablecoin users, but financial market participants, and then ultimately the financial system itself, that these are durable, reliable, fundamental market infrastructure for the real world economy. So first, I think it's very encouraging overall. Second, in terms of directly on Circle, as you may know, we have already announced that we are in the process of submitting an application to become a national Fed-supervised, FDIC-insured digital currency bank. And so I think this very much is aligned with our view as to how something like USDC ought to be regulated in the U.S. financial system.
Jeremy, was there anything about this report that was surprising or unexpected, or was this pretty much what you thought was going to happen?
So I think for the most part, it's what we expected. I think, like a lot of these, this is a set of recommendations. It's a sort of an analysis and a set of recommendations. It's not law. This isn't, now there's this and you have to do it. And so within that set of recommendations, there were things that I think the spirit of them were understandable, but sort of the way that they're presented, I think, pose some real significant challenges. So I think one of the deepest ones, and I've commented on this on Twitter, is, financial market infrastructure has historically been something that is very, very tightly controlled, literally physically controlled, under very, very tight control by private entities and or public entities or some combination therein. And we're building a world where market infrastructure, in fact, not just market infrastructure, sort of the base layer of economic activity on the internet, is actually a public good. It exists as public infrastructure, i.e., public blockchains. And we're all building on top of that. And we're building apps like USDC. We're building apps like games. We're building apps like social media. We're building a lot of things on top of that, Web3, et cetera. So the recommendations sort of assume that that's not possible, basically. Like, well, they have this idea of you're going to regulate all of the entities under some federal guidelines and Fed, risk management, but you can't regulate a public blockchain. It's sort of like saying you're going to regulate, internet email or HTTP, the protocol of the web. Like, these are just open networks that everyone can connect to and participate in. And so I think that my comment here is really that the devil really is in the details. If Congress does take this up and say, how are we going to, look at this as a new pillar for the financial system? Well, it also means understanding that we're building on, public blockchains. That's a huge, piece of this.
So, Jeremy, who do you want to regulate you? We had Warren Davidson on, Representative Warren Davidson on a couple of days ago, and it sounds as if for him the ideal world would be different agencies would potentially regulate stablecoins depending on their asset base. But who do you think should regulate USDC? Who do you think should regulate stablecoins in general?
Well, so two pieces to my answer. The first is we are already well regulated. And we are regulated within the fintech laboratories that have regulated PayPal, Square, Stripe, Apple Cash, Venmo, so many other products and services that we all take advantage of and use. So we're regulated under banking supervision throughout the United States with very strong AML, consumer protection, full reserve requirements, a whole number of things, electronic stored value, money transmission, right? So we're regulated today with there. Our view has been, and I think this to more firmly answer your question, has been that as something like a dollar stablecoin like USDC becomes very large, hundreds of billions in circulation, trillions and trillions of transactions in value. And it's something that financial institutions and others are building on. It really belongs at the federal level. And so we believe it should be, the Federal Reserve, the US Treasury, OCC, and if appropriate, if there is an insurance model on it, the FDIC as well. So that's been our view. So I think that seems to be the direction of travel here in the United States.
So Jeremy, you've changed a bit of how your assets are allocated over the past few months, and one criticism that persists, though, is that your short-term accounts, the under 90-day portion of your assets, are still potentially in commercial paper, and you haven't broken that out yet. Why don't you break it out? Why don't we see what part of your short-term assets are in commercial paper versus U.S. Treasuries, and also how those commercial paper are rated, where they are? Are they in the U.S. or are they Yankee bonds? And as well, do you use any crypto at all as potential collateral, as potential anything in your business?
Well, so for us to use crypto collateral to issue USDC would be illegal in money transmission rules. So absolutely not. We've never, ever done anything like that. So we report out as cash and cash equivalents, which is a generally accepted accounting principle. It's very well understood as well. What we have publicly said is that it's cash and short duration U.S. government treasuries, which is what that is. We list that as cash and cash equivalents, which is understood, but within the financial industry, I think fairly well. So I mean, that's the straightforward answer on that.
But why not give a little bit more detail on that? Since this is such a contentious issue in the stablecoin world,
I think financial institutions, corporations, et cetera, that list cash and cash equivalents don't break all of those things out. I mean, I think that'll be an interesting regulatory question whether we think that's necessary.
But it wouldn't it help to at least volunteer it? I mean, it is such a problem in this industry, and it's a growing industry, and it's clearly a worry for federal regulators. Wouldn't you want to at least show some?
We depend on our regulators to tell us what we ought to do there. So, for example, the state banking supervisors that supervise us, and what we are what a cash equivalent is in that determination, we depend on those regulators. So I think what you're suggesting is that there should be a greater level of self-regulatory kind of activity here beyond what we've done, which is also above and beyond what we're required to do from a regulatory perspective. No one's asking Dan Schulman, break down the $35 billion reserves. No one's asking Tim Cook, break down the reserves behind Apple Pay Cash. No one's asking Cash and Jack Dorsey to do that. So I think we just have to figure out, are we going to depend on a regulatory framework that has a very well-defined framework of accountability and law, or is this, a kind of, a desire to sort of establish something outside of the regulatory framework that we have?
Okay, and Jeremy, we have a video as well, but when you see it, you can't unsee it. And I know it's all fun and games, but at the same time, it's a serious time in the stablecoin industry. And you drop this circle bomb, that's what the video is called, of a rap. And I wonder, are you concerned at all with the perception of the industry? This was at the time when the stablecoin report was also dropped. And I mean, is there a concern that the industry may not be taken as seriously or considered frivolous? Any concern with the perceptions?
No, not really. I mean, I think the fact that we have like a company all hands and a talent show and people are excited and doing that, I think it's pretty awesome. I think, look, I've gone to see David Solomon DJ electronic music, but
he's
right
good.
before an earnings call, and so I think we're in a different era culturally, and we see that with a lot of amazing leaders of amazing companies that are doing amazing things. I hope to be a great industry leader over time, I think it's kind of fun.
All right. Well, Jeremy, thanks for joining us. Appreciate your insights as always. That was Circle CEO Jeremy Elaire. Coming up, checking in on Asia and the crypto markets update with US-based crypto broker Voyager Digital. Forecast on what's happening in the Asia crypto markets. Here's Megha Chadha of Forecast News.
Let's kick off with some of the top stories out of Asia today. First up, India's digital payments giant Paytm is considering to launch crypto-related services if it becomes a regulated asset class. That's according to a Bloomberg interview with CFO Madhur Deora. Cryptocurrencies are currently in a regulatory grey area in India, with finance officials saying a bill to regulate them may be introduced for discussion in the budget session of Parliament next year. To China then, where state-owned news agency Xinhua is training its guns on online and social media accounts promoting virtual currencies in the country. They say low penalties and limited regulatory resources are why these promotions can still be seen despite cryptocurrency transactions being illegal in China. You can find more on those stories at forecast.news. Staying in China, mining hardware manufacturer Canaan is suing two companies over patent infringement. Canaan has accused both Shenzhen Haisharp and Sichuan Yinbei of making and selling Bitcoin mining chips based on their designs. Forecast News' Timmy Shen reports from Taipei, Taiwan.
According to Chinese media outlet Yicai, court filings show that Nasdaq-listed Canaan is demanding Shenzhen Haisharp and Sichuan Yinbei cease production of the machines it claims are based on designs it had previously patented. Canaan is also asking for damages of 90 million yuan, or a little over $14 million. Haisharp is the chip design partner of AGM Holdings, a former accounting and enterprise planning software company that only pivoted into the Bitcoin ASIC chip manufacturing market over the summer. The two struck a partnership deal, with AGM promising to source buyers for orders worth $100 million by March next year, in return for Haisharp prioritizing its Bitcoin ASIC chip design for them. Since the beginning of October, AGM has announced pre-order sales of at least 65,000 units of its mining machines. Meanwhile, the clampdown on mining within China continues, with Beijing's Development and Reform Commission saying it is strengthening monitoring of power consumption at data centers, as well as working to identify any abnormal electricity use that could be related to crypto mining. For Forecast News, I'm Timmy Shan, Taipei, Taiwan.
And yet more from China. Despite warnings from a state-run think tank over national security risks involved with Metaverse, the rush to get involved is gathering pace. Internet giants Baidu and NetEase have both jumped in, filing for Metaverse trademarks. Forecast News' Carolyn Wright has more.
Chinese companies are scrambling to file trademark registrations related to the metaverse, with Baidu and NetEase just the latest two technology giants to join the ever-growing craze. According to the Xichacha, a website where you can search for information about Chinese companies, NetEase has applied for 3 trademarks with metaverse in the name. They are NetEase Metaverse, Leihuo Metaverse, and Fuxi Metaverse, while Baidu has applied for a trademark of MetApp. NetEase is the leading manufacturer of mobile phone games in China, with Identity V and Knives Out both currently listed as examples of hot games on its website, while Baidu is China's search engine giant. And they aren't the only ones. This year has seen a surge in Chinese companies looking to register trademarks related to Yuan Universe, which is a literal translation of the characters used for the word metaverse. According to the Xichacha, just over 3,700 trademarks containing those characters had been submitted for registration by Friday lunchtime Asia time. But that number is going up all the time and includes submissions from well-known companies including Tencent, ByteDance and Alibaba. However, Chinese authorities have recently urged caution over a series of blockchain-related emerging fields, including both the metaverse and NFTs. Just last week, a think tank under the charge of the National Security Agency of China published an article stating that the metaverse may threaten national security due to technological discrimination, cyber attacks, and even the social changes that it may cause. For Forecast News, I'm Carolyn Wright.
And that's the daily forecast from our vantage point right here in Asia. For more, visit forecast.news. I'm Megha Chata. Until next time.
The Crypto Markets Update is presented by Grayscale, the world's largest digital currency asset manager.
Checking in on Bitcoin, the Coindesk Bitcoin price XPX index currently trading at $61,566. Bitcoin pulling back slightly by about 0.5%. The Coindesk Ether price ETX index is at 45.10. ETH is also sliding down about 0.7%. And the DFX Coindesk DeFi index is at 646 points, also retreating about 1.2% over the past 24 hours. And joining us now to discuss the crypto markets is Stephen Ehrlich, CEO of publicly listed crypto brokerage Voyager Digital. Hello there, Stephen. So, this is Don Tapscott. There we are. There is Stephen. Stephen, great to have you on the show. So I'm seeing a lot of red in the crypto markets. Folks are just taking some short-term profit? Where's the price headed?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me again. Appreciate being on today. Look, we're seeing a lot of activity in a lot of the altcoins happening on our platform. The Voyager is the place where people come for all the altcoins. We have 65 coins, and we're seeing a lot of activity. We do see a little red, but we're looking again, as we tend to see in these situations, people coming in more because they believe in some of these altcoins, whether it's Algorand or Avalanche or Solana, which has had a nice run lately. People are coming in and buying some of these, what they see as dips here, because we do look at the alternatives to Ethereum as really popular these days for people to enter.
Hi. So we've talked to you before about the Doge phenomenon, and now kind of, the dog coins have gone to a new level since you've last been here. Now we've got, Shiba Inu and it might seem absurd, but these are like serious market caps we're talking about. And I'm just curious what your thought is about these meme coins, because, for example, something like Shiba Inu has, I think, defied expectations for just like how much it keeps going. Do you take these seriously at all?
Well, I do, because I think, trading these days, people are interested in community building. Communities have an impact on price of coins these days. We see it in the traditional markets with what happened with GameStop and AMC and so forth. So, yeah, we take this seriously, and our customers are coming in and buying a lot of these, whether it's Shiba or even Doge again. We're one of only a couple of places in the U.S. that you can actually get Shiba. So we've seen a tremendous, inbound number of accounts because people are taking it seriously, and they look at it as an opportunity to do, make a little money, create some wealth on these coins. But there's always a a rotation that happens. They'll be in Shiba, maybe they'll trade some, and then they'll rotate into some of the other altcoins, as I mentioned. Then they'll rotate back into Bitcoin when it starts moving up. Bitcoin's been pretty static lately. So people are looking for other opportunities, and that's where they're going, to Shiba or Doge, and then they'll rotate around other coins.
So, getting back to the majors, we look at Ethereum and we look at Ether, and we look at the options market. I know that's not necessarily the biggest market for you guys, but when you look at the options market of ETH against the spot market of ETH and compare that to the options market of Bitcoin compared to the spot market of Bitcoin, the options market of ETH is relatively small compared to its spot market when you look at Bitcoin, which is a much more mature derivatives market. What do you think will spur, or will anything spur the ETH derivatives market, the ETH options market particularly, so that it catches up relative to the size of spot volume when compared to, let's say, Bitcoin?
Yeah, that's a really interesting concept there. And if you kind of replay where the option markets were in the traditional markets 20 years ago, there was very little option volume, and it started to take hold. And now the option volume in the traditional markets is quite substantial. I just think it's a matter of time. I think option markets being on platforms like ours take time to develop and put into. There's, regulatory issues you have to worry about with that from a U.S. perspective, because we're strictly in the U.S. As those products become more easily to obtain and to trade, you'll see that volume grow. But we're still a few years away from that happening. I know there's derivative platforms that have been sold lately, LedgerX, and they're working towards that. One of the reasons we did partner with Alameda was to get access to that market when it's ready to go and offer more derivative products. It's just going to take time. The traditional equity markets and option markets took time for the option volume to gain traction, and you'll see the same thing here.
Hey, so Steve, what's going on with the Mavericks, with the Mavs? You have some sort of deal with them, I understand. So does this mean I get tickets? I think that's the big question.
It's the number one question everyone asks is, can I go to a game? No, it's a great partnership for Voyager. We've had an opportunity across a lot of NBA teams to work with, but we look at Voyager where we're bringing crypto accessibility to everybody. And there's no other organization that is more innovative when it comes to crypto, DeFi, everything about crypto. And that's the Mavericks and Mark Cuban. I mean, he's always at the forefront of crypto. So when we had opportunity to work with the Mavs and drive a partnership to help bring, more accessibility to crypto in a state that, you talked earlier about New York, Texas is becoming more accessible and being innovative. We're starting to work with the Texas Blockchain Association. So
are you moving to Texas?
About that because am I moving to Texas? I'm a New Yorker through and through, so I'm staying around here. But we will build offices. We do have people in Texas now, in Austin, and we're looking at Dallas as another place to grow to. But it's a great partnership. Mark's already put out an NFT. If you go to a game or if your ticket, you get an NFT. So there's so many good things coming out of that. The opportunity to work with an industry leader like that for us. And then on top of that, the education we're going to bring to the area, working together into Dallas and to Texas, was something we felt very, very strong about and wanted to work with the right partner. And the Mavericks are the right partner for us. It's been fantastic for our business. We moved to the top 50 in the App Store of all overall apps last week as well. And we continue to have tremendous amount of growth in our business from that partnership.
Yeah, it's all about mass adoption, the NFTs, and now bringing the NBA and sports into the fold. Thank you, Stephen, so much. Congratulations on your partnership. That was Voyager Digital CEO Stephen Ehrlich. All right, coming up, we'll discuss the Metaverse and the platform revolution with the Blockchain Research Institute.
Coindesk Indexes, the market standard for crypto assets since 2014. Our trusted data powers billions in publicly traded funds. Coindesk Indexes are the standard used by institutions, and they're the key for investors looking to understand and access crypto markets.
Coindesk Bitcoin Price Index, XBX, has been instrumental to Grayscale, enabling investors around the world to access Bitcoin through a regulated, familiar product.
Coindesk Indexes enabled the early adopters to build crypto investment vehicles, and they're already trusted by a new generation of global investors.
The Coindesk Spotlight is brought to you by Nexo, the place to earn on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and more.
Meta, formerly Facebook, can't seem to avoid causing controversy. The social media giant's name change and long-term plan to build its own metaverse are raising eyebrows. Brendan from Dharma, an Ethereum wallet, tweeting, "So basically it's Ethereum versus Facebook in a race to create a compelling metaverse. Open versus closed, transparent versus opaque, permissionless versus permissioned, community-owned versus Zuck-owned. My bets are placed. Let's build a better future together." Joining us now to discuss is Don Tapscott, co-founder of the Blockchain Research Institute and the author of a new book called Platform Revolution. Hello there, Don. So with Meta, formerly Facebook, they want to get into NFTs and build a metaverse. Is that a good thing, or is that a threat to the decentralized communities that have been incubating and proliferating organically?
Well, there are two different perspectives here, as you just described, on how to go about creating the metaverse. First of all, the metaverse is an idea that's been around for a long time. I used to hang out in Second Life. I gave lectures there. I had a house and all kinds of stuff. And that was years ago. We wrote about that in Wikinomics well over 15 years ago. But Second Life in general is getting a second life because of blockchain. And it's not even clear that Facebook will have a blockchain platform for that, for their Meta. It's getting a second life because we can now have an actual currency in the metaverse. We can now protect digital assets with NFTs. Thank you for mentioning my new book, Platform Revolution. But we wrote about the concept of crypto collectibles 6 years ago in Blockchain Revolution. And also, we have a much more secure platform now with blockchain. So this is the only way to do the metaverse. And will Facebook even do that? Well, that's a big question, because in many ways, the platform of blockchain, which is becoming the platform for the corporation and the changes to the deep structure and architecture of the firm, it's becoming the platform for supply chains. It's becoming the platform for the transformation of entire industries. It's also becoming the platform for new social forms of engagement involving the citizens of the world. So blockchain is achieving platform status, and Facebook has shown no evidence that it has a clue about that, or else having an open platform like this is antithetical to the basic business model of the company.
It's nice to see you. So I guess a question, though, about these sort of how blockchain, this transformative power of blockchain that you're talking about. Can you give us a few concrete examples of blockchain use cases that are actually being used by a significant number of people? I mean, I'm sure they're out there, but they're definitely not widely known. Blockchain is still talked about a lot in terms of potential and promise. But like, what are some examples of blockchain technology actually being applied and being used by a significant number of people?
Well, that's what we talk about in Platform Revolution. It's just a myth that this isn't happening, that blockchain is just about digital assets and crypto. It's being adopted by enterprises all around the world. And, just something like, consider supply chain. The CEO of FedEx, Fred Smith, said that we built a company around a concept, the chain of custody. And we built some technology, we put our logo on it, we took it out to market, and we created a whole industry. We're going to do that again around blockchain. And they've got significant activity that's happening everywhere. And it's not just the transformation of the courier industry, it's logistics. So you have BITA, Blockchain and Transportation Alliance, which has all the big players, including competitors, that are working together. And you think about it, you got trains and boats and planes and trucks and escrow agents and payment systems and EDI and traditional ERP and information flying around and faxes and phone calls and emails and so on. Imagine if all of that were a shared network state, and that's the FedEx vision. A single version of the truth, real time transactions. There's no 3-day settlement period because the payment and the settlement is the same thing. It's just a change to a ledger. And we're studying 14 different industries, actually, at the BRI, and we talk about these in the new book, Platform Revolution. If I could just say another thing, though, it's not just about blockchain. This book is the first to introduce a new concept, not just that blockchain is achieving platform status, but that it's a platform for other technologies. And we call this the trivergence, okay? You heard it here first on Coindesk. This is the convergence of blockchain as a platform with AI, machine learning, and the Internet of Things. And this is all part of the second era of the digital age. That, the first era had mainframes, mini computers, PCs, the Internet, the web, social media, the mobile web, the cloud, big data. And now we have this next generation of technology that is triverging around blockchain. And this is at the heart of very profound changes to every industry and also to every corporation as well.
Don, you mentioned trivergence and what have you, but is there any sort of data that shouldn't be on? What should not be on the blockchain as this trivergence happens? I mean, obviously there are limits to what things can be accomplished. But is there anything when you look at it and say, you know what, it's better for everyone if we don't have that data out there, and we maybe keep individualized databases on our own servers and not share it, etc. There's always the argument like, why not just use an Excel spreadsheet or something?
Well, it's a good question, but I think that there are two parts of the question. Is what are the permissions that various people should have to access data? And the second is, what data should be on a blockchain with appropriate security measures to ensure that the permissions and the privacy and the access that we want are available. And this is another big theme that we talk about in Platform Revolution. I'm after this, I'm getting on a plane. I'm heading to Denmark. Remember Shakespeare? Something rotten in the state of Denmark. Actually, there's something rotten in the state of the web today. And this is hardly a revelation to anyone watching this show. And the big problem is the issue that you're addressing. That data is the asset class of the digital age, and the foundation of our identities is being captured by these digital conglomerates, a new species of business that are first of all more valuable relative to the whole economy than any other forms of wealth in previous economies. You've got 5 companies that are now half of NASDAQ. They're 20% of the S&P 500. And this is a big problem for a lot of reasons. One, as you're alluding to, our data is owned by them, so they control it. The virtual you may know more than you do about all kinds of things, because you can't remember what you bought a year ago or said a year ago, or what your health record said, or what diagnosis you had, or what you got on that test, or your exact location. Mm-hmm. You create the data, but it's captured by these conglomerates. So we need a platform whereby it's not just about permissions, where I own that data, part one, and part two, that it's secure. And it's possible to build blockchain platforms that achieve both of those things. And if I own the data, by the way, this is not just about privacy. Although people say to me, well, Don, privacy's dead. Get over it. If you got nothing to hide, what's your problem? This is stupidity. Privacy is the foundation of freedom. And if you want to understand that, look at the social score in China. But also,
we unfortunately have to end it there, Don. We're running out of time. But again, the book is Platform Revolution. Thank you so much for joining us. That was Don Tapscott, co-founder of the Blockchain Research Institute. All right, that's it for First Mover. Thank you, Emily Parker, and thank you, Lawrence Luton. I'm your host, Christine Lee. I'll be back live at 3 p.m. with All About Bitcoin. Coming up at noon is The Hash. You're watching Coindesk TV.